Welcome. I'm Terry McGill, and this is Who's Your Neighbor? This show was born because of COVID, or rather, because of how people discovered that being enclosed longer than they used to be with their partner, that's one of the reasons. Some of the stories that I read, I began to realize that we need connection, but depending on the people that we're around, maybe we need distance. So most of us, though, needed connection, and most of us didn't know where to go for help, for advice, for counsel, or more. And so this show was started about 20 weeks ago, and the whole thing is to bring connection and collaboration and introduce you, the general public, mostly in the Portland metropolitan area, Portland, Oregon, to the people that are around you that may simply amaze you, like this absolute magician that I'm going to introduce to you in a minute. This is Larry Jensen. His website is Brain Connect, CONNECT.com. We'll put it on the screen and in the chat room for you. There it is, brainconnect.com, or Larry at Brain Connect. I'll ask my engineer to bring Larry on right now.
How are you?
That was fast. That was a magician trick. Yeah. So I am fine. And I'm going to tilt my laptop slightly so our heads are about the same. I'm still taller. I just have a big head, huh?
All right,
I was at the MeWe Fair this weekend, and you were alongside of us in a booth, and I could hear you snapping your fingers. And I didn't know what that noise was at first. Candidly, for the audience, his finger snapping is louder than I've ever heard anybody able to do that. I'm jealous.
I've been doing it for 13 years.
Wow.
I've become very good at finger snapping.
So what is Brain Connect that gets you the ability to snap your fingers in public?
Well, but I do connect brain waves. And so I can see why you would have thought it's Brain Connect, but it's correct. And I correct people's brains. So I got into it because my nephew, back in 2005, was nonverbal autistic. And my nephew, and his father is a naturopathic physician. And this woman came just to say, hey, could I put some flyers in your foyer, in your lobby? And he's like, what do you do? And she said, brain integration is a process of rewiring parts of the brain so that we can function better. Cognitive processing just starts working better. The flow of brain waves can be reconnected through this integration. It's a protocol. It takes several hours, but it helps with any cognitive processing issue. Learning disables are the big ones. So dyslexia and ADHD are the two. Like, I work with kids all the time who have those types of issues, and it just rewires or heals that part of the brain so that they can focus or concentrate, or more importantly, so the words don't move on the page if that's what's happening with a child. And I do it for adults too, obviously.
You mentioned when I was talking to you one time when we had a break there on the fair this weekend, something about a 9-year-old who began to speak.
That's my nephew. So this woman, of course, told my brother like what she does, this brain integration. And he's like, wait. I have a nonverbal 9-year-old who he can't read, he can't write, he can't tell time, can't read it, but he understands English. He can hear and understand what's going on. He just can't speak. And she said, oh, let me work on him. She said, I've not worked on someone that's autistic, but I can try it. We can see how it goes. And after the first 3 hours, just because that's how the protocol works, he went on the way home. He started speaking in full sentences.
The nonverbal autistic boy?
Yeah. And my sister-in-law's like, what's going on? Because that's not like, plus my brother is a naturopath. So he's already studied out what he can do for his son. Right.
Right.
It was just this amazing thing. Well, a year later, I mean, he had just started to develop, because not only did she help him, of course, start speaking, rewiring the parts of the brain that have to do with speech, she also rewired the parts of the brain that deal with learning to read and understanding what words are and how symbols work. It was just this amazing, wonderful thing. Well, I fast forward a year from there, December of 2006, I was on antidepressants, anti-anxiety pills, me. And I was living in my parents' basement because I couldn't keep a job. I had gone through 13 jobs in 4 years.
Whoa.
I was a high school teacher for years and years. And then I got in a car accident. Then I got in a work-related accident, and then another car accident, like within a year, 3 different head traumas. And I couldn't deal with the kids anymore. I couldn't deal with the pressure of being a teacher. So I quit, moved on, proceeded to go from job to job for 4 years until my mom and dad are like, you need brain integration like your nephew. Your brain is not working right. And it just lifted me out of my funk and got me back to normal. It was just, well, what's normal? But it got me back to my old self.
Wow. So you connected with that woman that helped your nephew?
Yeah, the same woman. And then thereafter, I went back to teaching for a couple of years. And then my mom and dad kept saying through those 2 years after brain integration that I should be doing this for a living. Like, they're like, you just should do this. It's so cool. And you'd be really good at it. So finally, after a couple of years, I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's try this. And I've been doing it since I got certified in 2010. And I started learning it in 2009. So actually, I started my business in April of 2009. So 13 years doing this.
Yeah, almost on your anniversary right now.
Right? Yeah. And I have just seen so many amazing things. I've got, my website is braincorrect.com, and you can read dozens of testimonials of different things that people have dealt with that I've helped them with. And I've got my Facebook page that I have just randomly put. If somebody texts me or calls me of a success story of their daughter or son, I put those on Facebook, but I don't post too much more than that. And I just am living my life. So I have been living in Ashland for 3.5 years. I moved there in fall of 2018. And I just started getting a lot of people up in this neck of the woods. So I have just this week actually moved to Wilsonville. I work out of my home. And
for our listeners, when he says up in this neck of the woods, he's referring to the Portland metropolitan area, Portland, Oregon metropolitan. Wilsonville is one of the bedroom communities.
Yeah, it is. And I've found a nice home, and I've got a place that people can come and come to my home and do it. Or I am more than willing. So I work with kids a lot, and parents don't want to come and sit with their kid at my office for 3 hours. And so I will go to their home where they're comfortable. Kids are running around or a dog's licking my leg. I don't care about any of that. I just want to help the kid. And the moms are so happy that they don't have to come to my office, to my home.
So you mentioned that you're in Bend right now?
I'm in Bend. Yeah, I came down today. I will spend some time at these people's home here in Bend until the child is done. He's a 14-year-old boy. And I will be working on him for 2.5 days, maybe. Uh-huh. And he has ADHD. So I will just rewire those parts of the brain that will help him focus and be able to pay attention.
There's so much need out there. ADHD and what's the other one? AHD?
And PTSD is a big one. I've helped a lot of gentlemen coming back from Iraq or Afghanistan that just their brain shuts off because of the trauma of PTSD of Afghanistan. And they can't think, they can't reason. And I rewire that. I turn on the things that are turned off due to trauma, whether it's an emotional trauma or a physical trauma, like a car accident. Those things shut our brain off to protect us, but sometimes they don't turn on. In fact, my mom, 2.5 years ago, thank goodness I can do this. My mom had a stroke, and she's now in her 80s. Like, she must have had a stroke, right? Like at 78 or 79 years old. I can't remember. It was before COVID, or maybe it was right at COVID. And I was able to get her MRI and read the MRI and know what parts of the brain had turned off because of her stroke and heal those things. I mean, that was my own mom. It was awesome. So it's just this amazing protocol. And I tell people, okay, so this is the important thing I want you to know, Terry. I do free assessments on anybody who wants one. Call my number, email me, it doesn't matter which, text me and say, hey, yeah, there's my number. I just text and say, hey, I want a free assessment, and I can text you back and we can arrange something. It takes anywhere from 60 minutes to 90 minutes. And during the assessment, I can figure out what's going on with your brain, how I can help you with whatever issues that you have, how long it would take. I even show you like how it works. I literally perform some of this protocol on the person so that they can get an idea of the procedure.
Wow.
It's just, I know, I love it.
I can understand why. That's so exciting. Wow.
During COVID, I did a lot of Zoom, initial assessments through Zoom, and they're not, I can't do it right there in front of, I can't do it over Zoom, but people can get an idea of what's going to be involved. And so if somebody is still wanting to do it over Zoom or like Facebook, whatever way I would need to meet with them, I can do it that way too.
So you're not limited to in person where you travel or in the Portland metro area.
Yeah, well, that's specifically just for probably the assessment.
Right.
But to actually work on a person, I would need to go there. So just as a little side note, even though I will be in Portland, I have clients from 2014 to 2018.
Right.
Prior to moving to Ashland, I literally lived in hotels and Airbnbs because I started in Utah, and some people in southwestern Wyoming wanted me to come and work on their child. They had heard they had relatives in Utah. So I moved up. I drove to Wyoming. Then some of their friends were in Idaho. A couple of people in Grand Junction, Colorado wanted me to work on them. Bend, Oregon, Yuma, Arizona. So I literally drove around the western states for 4 years working on people. I was booked out like 2 months at a time going, oh, I'm going to be in Santa Monica during this week. So if you know anybody, let me know and I can work on them. And so I still go and travel and work on people if they want me to.
Wow.
But I want to stay home in Wilsonville for a while, so there's that.
Well, I was thinking about that. That's almost like being in a band.
Yeah, a one-man band.
That brings up images I won't go into. But I'm thinking about the toll on you of not being able to be grounded, and yeah. Boy.
Well, and of course, I know enough about healing energy work and stuff to ground myself.
Right.
But it was taxing on me sometimes. But I love it so much. And you know what's interesting? Like, okay, my favorite was the little boy, maybe that she was reading about, that she mentioned earlier.
So you're referring to our engineer that you were speaking with?
Yeah,
you can't see.
Michelle. Was it Michelle?
Yeah.
This child that I worked on that had a stutter, his stutter was every other word. Like within a sentence, he would stutter 3 or 4 times. He was straight A student. He was the pitcher of his little league team. He was on his Pee Wee football team. He was the quarterback. Smart student, good looking kid. But he was so shy and introverted because he was a stutterer. And he was so, I don't know if it was embarrassed. Yeah, it was embarrassed, but he had just become so shy because of the criticism and because of the thing, you know. And in that first 3 hours, now the reason it was such a big deal to me is because he was one of my very first stutterers. And I did the part of the brain that I knew was specifically directly like connected to stuttering. And I said, and in my mind, I was like, so I wonder if he's stuttering. I didn't know, right? And so I said, you know what? I knew at the time he was playing soccer. He had mentioned that. And I said, so I don't understand soccer. Like, I don't even like it because nobody even scores at the end of the game. There's nobody has even scored, at least the games I've gone to. And then they just kick at the end to try and get a winner. I'm like, I don't understand it. It's like you're just kicking the ball around and not doing anything. And he got so excited. He was like, no, Larry, it's so much fun. I score a lot. And he started telling me, he's like, I'm a midi. That's a midfielder. And he started explaining soccer to me without stuttering.
How many hours of treatment was that?
After 3, about 2.5.
Wow.
And at the end, and he started just talking, realizing that he wasn't stuttering. He just was like, I'm not stuttering. And he was laying on a massage table. He's laying on his back. And the tears just start streaming down his face. He can't even believe it. I can't. And I really can't believe it either because I was so new at doing this. This is years ago, right? And he leans up on his elbows and looks across the room where his mom is sitting. And his mom was folding clothes. And she's just staring with a shirt in her hand going like, it was shocking. It was so amazing. So, yeah, dyslexia.
I can understand why you get testimonials in.
Right?
Wow.
It's this awesome, amazing thing. So, yeah, I just can't say enough about it. It's amazing. You know, everybody's different too. Like some people's issue won't go away immediately, like a stutter, but at least they have the brain function to rewire whatever. So, yeah, I'm an example of that. So, you know, I told you that I was on anti-anxiety pills and I was on antidepressants before brain integration. And then I had the brain integration and I totally was able to get off the pills because I was no longer depressed. But I also had a reading comprehension issue. I could read any book and enjoy any book. But you ask me what I had just read, I couldn't tell you. I could study for a test for 3 or 4 days. I didn't understand the thing I was reading. It was so hard for me to comprehend things. I would have to read it like somebody would say, hey, read that paragraph and tell me what it's about. So I would read it and I'd be going, wait, what? And I'd have to reread it, force myself to go, what am I even reading here? After brain integration, that was for that first 2 years that I told you, you know, I was teaching still. I was teaching. And my mom and dad would say, you should be a practitioner. You should do this for a living. And in my mind, I was like, I would have to study neuroscience, and I don't think I could. So I called my practitioner and I said, I may want to become a practitioner myself. But I can't comprehend what I read. And so can you tweak that part of my brain? And she said, I already did. I said, well, I can't comprehend what I read. She's like, well, what are you doing about it? I'm like, what do you mean? She said, get a book and read the first couple sentences to me. And so I did. And she said, okay, what did those mean? I immediately began rereading them. But this time something was in my brain that I went, it was a weird, different feeling because I was really comprehending this time as I read it. I went, oh, it means this. She literally congratulated me. She's like, congratulations. This is probably the first time you've ever comprehended something. I'm like, why didn't you tell me this 2 years ago that this is what I would have to do? Like really concentrate on what I was reading as I was reading it. She's like, I probably did, but there were so many things that were going on during the brain integration. During the 10 hours you were with me, actually it was 15 for me. She said it probably got lost in the shuffle. And I was so happy after brain integration because I wasn't depressed and anxiety ridden.
Right.
The reading comprehension took a back seat. But I remember I read just 2 sentences and I picked up the book. I said, this is a 500-page book. This is going to take me forever to read. And she said, no. It's muscle up there. She said, read 2 more sentences, figure out what they mean. Read 2 more sentences, figure out what they mean. then maybe by the time you're at chapter 2, you could maybe read a whole paragraph. And by the time you're at chapter 3, maybe you'll be reading 2 paragraphs or maybe half a page and stopping and going, okay, what did that mean? That's exactly what it was. It was freaking like, how am I doing this? I struggled through college. I struggled through high school because I couldn't comprehend. And my short-term memory and long-term memory weren't connected either. So there was that. All of that started working because I worked at it once my brain was integrated. And I became this neuroscientist. I mean, brain integration is a lot of neuroscience because you have to know what's going on in the brain, right?
I was wondering about that this weekend. What kind of a training you must have had?
Yeah, it was horrible. Well, it wasn't horrible. It was very taxing and trying because it was neuroscience. Like, really? Amygdala? What the heck? First of all, I can't even say it initially. Hippocampus? What? Now now it's just crazy. All the neuroscience that I've learned to go to certain parts of the brain that are just to tweak somebody's issue that they have in regard to whatever. The PTSD stuff is, I hate to say easy, but straightforward. Lots of things are straightforward. Dyslexia, learning disabilities, they're straightforward. I just follow this protocol. Sometimes I have to go into deeper, more advanced parts of the brain. So I have to read up on things and go, oh, let's try this. But it always just seems to keep working, and people are thrilled and astounded.
Wow.
And I'm sure when this is on Facebook, you're going to post this on Facebook or something?
We're on Facebook Live right now.
So will it become a video at some point on YouTube?
We're going to convert it into a YouTube video and give you a copy.
Yeah, so I'll have a link probably on my braincorrect.com, but also on Facebook, Brain Correct. And just because I'm just thrilled that you're doing this for me. This is wonderful. And this is,
I was people are this weekend to begin to get a sense when you were playing with that little kid's toy with lights in it, and then giving people a test where they would look in a mirror and trace something.
Yeah.
While their eyes were blocked from seeing what they were supposed to trace. And I'm going, what is he doing over there? And why are they holding that thing up in front of them? And then, the second day I began to understand why. And also I began to understand why some people couldn't do it at all.
Right. Yeah. Everybody's brain is so different. Everybody has issues. I generally will work on a child. I'll learn that a child needs brain integration. The mom has called me. I go work on, like here in Bend. Within the next month or two of the child improving so dramatically and becoming so much better at focusing or remembering or doing spelling better or math better, right? The parents call and say, okay, we have another kid, but can you do me too? And the mom, and I'm like, of course. And actually, wives always say, you need to do my husband. And dads say, you need to do my wife.
Because we don't know our own issues as well as our partner does.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Did you ever have a child tell you that you need to do my parent?
Actually, yes. That years ago in a town in eastern Utah, it wasn't really that the parent that you need to do my mom's brain integration, but she was trying to. So he was ADHD and he couldn't pay attention to anything, and he had a really bad short-term memory. So she would say, "Go pick up your toys and put all the dirty clothes in the laundry basket and put all the clean clothes in the drawer, and then make your bed." He would go in there knowing that he had to pick up the toys. Well, he'd start playing with the toy. Nothing else would get done, right?
Yeah.
So after his brain integration, she would say, okay, you need to go do this, this, and this. And he would go do 3 things, but they weren't the right 3 things, or he did one of them incorrectly. Right. So I came back 6 weeks later just to do a follow-up. I sometimes do that. And the mom's like, he's still not doing this. And she said, the other day he said this, I told him to do this, this, and this. And he didn't do it right. And the boy said, no, Mom, you said to do this, this, and this. And she's like, oh my gosh, I did. I said, you didn't speak clearly enough for him because you're not communicating better. You know, you need to communicate better with him. I said, from now on, every time you say it, I want him to repeat back what you said, and you're going to realize you're not speaking correctly either. You're telling him to do things that aren't what you're really expecting him to do. And she's like, oh my gosh, that's so true. So it was very, and she did her great integration.
Did she get some work done then?
Yeah, she did it. And actually her daughter did it too.
I bet you just changed families beyond comprehension.
Yeah. And my own family has seen so many amazing things. My nephew, who was 9 back in the day, now I think he's 26 years old, full-time job, easygoing guy, does his own thing, happy as heck. Just a great guy, can speak and read and write, whatever. He's just a good old boy.
Wow. That's, Larry, we're right at near the end, but I am so grateful for meeting you this weekend and then having you say, yeah, I thought you were going to be in Wilsonville. Here you are in Bend. I think you haven't completely unpacked in your house, your new house over there in
I haven't.
Yeah. Oh, incidentally, we have somebody who's just joined us from maybe Hawaii or maybe not, but they said aloha.
Oh, aloha.
Yeah.
I'll come over. I'll plan a trip specifically to come over and work on you if you decide you want brain integration.
In Hawaii.
It's an amazing thing.
Absolutely. That'd be fun. So let's see, Mala. I need glasses, but anyway, Mala and all the viewers, if you've just joined us, then this is a recorded show. It's going to be on Facebook Live in the archives. And so you're going to be able to watch it. You can watch it 10 times if you want to. You can refer people to it. You can refer people to Larry because they aren't clear or they've got PTSD, ADHD, stroke recovery, dyslexia, and more. So Michelle has, there we go, Larry Jensen. The website is braincorrect.com or email Larry, and you can get, if you're local or near to Wilsonville, Portland area, you can get your 60 to 90 minute assessment in person. And if not, then you can do some parts of it online.
I can do I can do most of it on across the airwaves. So yeah, anybody that wants an assessment, it's free. I schedule it. Whether I come to you personally or do it on Zoom or a Facebook Messenger video chat or whatever.
Right. Wow. Larry, it's just been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. I am so grateful that I can do this, and it's been a really good interview, so I'll use it a lot, I'm sure.
So let me ask you this. How uncomfortable have you been about how you were appearing on the webcast? Because before we started, there was some discomfort, and you were offered a Tao Healing Hands blessing for stage presence.
Well, I must have found some stage presence because I felt a shift of more, not calm. I mean, I was calm, but a little more prepared. I felt more prepared maybe after I got that stage presence. What was it? The technique you used? It's
Tao Healing Hands, and our engineer will post into the chat room there. There's going to be a training for level 1 in Portland, and it's offered around the world. There are 12 different centers around the world. One of them is right here in Portland, Oregon. And on Sunday, May the 26th, there's going to be level 1 training. That's where people learn to do what you received for themselves. Not only that, but just about anything that has to do with the physical issues they might have, the mental issues they might have, mind, and the emotional. So the next
May 26th.
May 26th. Put it on your calendar.
That would be very cool because I do want to learn it because it was simple and quick. It wasn't, well, it was simple and quick, but I don't know what you were doing. So thank you.
Well, you'll learn in one day, like 7 or 8 hours on May the 26th. And the good news is level 1 is only $150.
Oh my gosh. I know a friend that I'm sure is going, the three of us, I have several people. That's awesome.
I will send you the link that describes the whole program then.
Nice. Thank you so much.
And thank you. And and so the engineer is going to take you into the back room with her. Thank you so much, Larry. This has been one of, I tell you, I have met so many fascinating people on Who's Your Neighbor week after week. It's like, wow, you're doing this, you're doing that. And you know, right now, I think that Larry is right at the top of the chart, the top 2% for amazing, fascinating. And I'll ask our engineer, I think she just did, yes. The latest post over there in the chat room is www.5levelsofcreation Portland. There it is right on the screen in front of me. Now I can read it without tilting my head. So the 5 levels of creation you'll learn about in the first level of training, and then we'll go deeper into it. I say we because I get to do a part of it sometimes. It's really fascinating. That's my volunteer work because it is really miraculous. It's different from what Larry does, has wider applications. My favorite is we can bless people's homes, and it's like a feng shui blessing in that only more, I think, because it just simply transforms a person's home or their pets and their pets and relationships and finances. I mean, how many different uses are there of Tao Healing Hands? It's really fascinating. So we do need to end. We're given 30 minutes here every week. So every Tuesday, or if you've heard about it and you're watching a recording, you can go back and look at all the recordings at the same Facebook page that you're on. This is, I think, episode 19 or 20, one a week. And if you want to learn more about Tao Healing Hands, check out the next episode next week, because we're going to invite 2 Tao Healing Hands practitioners. Last week we had, I forget where they were now, because there are people literally around the world. There are 10 or 11,000, last count I heard, of Tao Healing Hands practitioners around the world. And like Larry, they do magic. So I'm Terry McGill. This is Who's Your Neighbor? And I'll say aloha, which means hope to see you later and love you in the meantime.